这个故事，如果你听起来不累，那么你的英语能力在美国日常生活是完全够用的。如果本视频的点赞数超过500，就会推出跟读版本。我们开始吧。
A dream changed a country. The dream started in a boy's heart. The boy's name was Martin. He was happy until one day he was not. A rule said he could not play with his friend. The rule was about the color of his skin. This is the story of that boy and that dream. Our story begins in a city called Atlanta in America. It was a long time ago. Martin was born into a loving family. His father was a preacher in a church. His voice was strong and full of deep feeling. His mother played the piano, and the house was always filled with music and songs about hope. Martin was a happy child. He had a best friend who lived next door. They played together every single day. They ran in the fields, chased butterflies, and shared secrets under a big tree. They were the best of friends. Martin was a black boy and his friend was a white boy. To them, the color of their skin did not matter. They were just friends. But one day, something sad happened. Martin went to his friend's house, but his friend's mother said, "Martin, you can't play with my son anymore." Martin was confused. "Why?" he asked. His heart felt tight. The mother looked away. She said, "Because you are black and we are white." Martin did not understand. What did skin color have to do with playing games? He went home with tears in his eyes. Suddenly, the world did not make sense to him anymore. He asked his mother, "Why can't I play with my friend? Why am I different?" His mother pulled him onto her lap and hugged him. She looked into his eyes with love and strength. She said, "Martin, being different is not a bad thing. But the world is sick. The sickness is called unfairness. Some people think they are better than others because their skin is a different color. That is wrong. It is a lie." She held his face in her hands. "Listen to me," she said softly. "You are as good as anyone. Never forget that. And one day you must help change this sick world." That night, Martin lay in his bed. He thought about his friend. He thought about the mother's cold words, and he thought about his own mother's warm words. A question started to grow in his heart. It was a question that would guide his whole life. How can I help make the world fair for everyone? A small seed of a dream was planted in the heart of a little boy. As Martin grew up, he saw unfairness everywhere. When he rode the bus, he had to sit in the back seats. Those seats were called the colored section. The front seats were only for white people. If a white person got on the bus and there were no seats, a black person had to stand up and give their seat away. It made him feel small and angry. He saw water fountains with signs that said whites only. Other signs said colored. The water was the same, but the signs separated people. He could not go to the same schools as white children. Their schools were new and had many books. His school was old and the books were used. His father taught him to be strong. One day, they went to a shoe store. The man in the store told them they had to go to the back to be served. Martin's father took his hand. He said, "We are not going to the back. If they won't treat us like everyone else in the front, we will not buy shoes here." He walked out of the store, holding his head high. Martin learned a big lesson that day. You must never let people treat you as if you are less than they are. Martin was very smart. He loved to read books and learn new things. He went to a special college for black students when he was only 15 years old. He read about history. He read about big ideas. And he read about people who changed the world. He read about a man from India named Gandhi. Gandhi taught that you can fight against unfairness without fighting with your hands. You can fight with peace, with love, and by being brave. This idea gave Martin a new energy and a clear goal. He thought, this is the way. This is how we can change America. He decided to become a preacher, like his father. But he wanted to be more than a man who spoke in a church. He dreamed of being a leader for all the people who had no voice. After years of studying, he became Dr. Martin Luther King. He married a wonderful, smart woman. They moved to a city in the South called Montgomery. He was ready to start his life's work. He did not know something was about to happen. A tired woman on a city bus would soon change his life. She would change America forever. One cold evening in Montgomery, a quiet woman named Rosa Parks got on a bus. She had a long day of work. She was tired. She sat down in the colored section. The bus started to fill up. Soon all the seats were taken. A white man got on. The bus driver looked at Rosa Parks and 3 other black people. "Get up," the driver said. "Give him your seats." The other 3 people stood up, but Rosa Parks did not move. She was tired, but it was more than that. She was tired of being treated in an unfair way. She was tired of the signs in the back seats. She looked at the driver and said softly but clearly, "No." The driver was angry. He called the police. Rosa Parks was arrested. Soon everyone in the black community was talking about it. They felt her tiredness in their own bodies. They felt her quiet no in their own hearts. They decided that enough was enough. The leaders of the community met in Martin's church. The room was full of energy and anger. They decided to do something brave. They would stop riding the buses, all of them. This is called a boycott. They would walk, share cars, or ride bikes. They would do anything but give their money to a bus company that treated them badly. But they needed a leader, someone to guide them and to speak for them. Everyone looked at the young, new preacher in town, Dr. Martin Luther King. Martin was only 26 years old. He was nervous. He knew this was dangerous. People who stood up to the unfair rules often got hurt. He had a wife and a new baby at home. He was scared. That night, he sat in his kitchen and prayed. He felt weak and alone. He said, "I don't think I can do this. I'm losing my courage." And then in the quiet of his kitchen, he felt a voice inside him. It was a calm, strong voice. It said, "Martin, stand up for what is right. Stand up for what is fair, and I will be with you." Suddenly, his fear was gone. He felt a deep peace and a new strength. He knew what he had to do. The next night, he stood in front of a big crowd at a church. So many people came that they stood outside the windows to listen. Martin's voice was strong and clear. "We are not here to cause trouble," he said. "We are here because we are tired. We are tired of being pushed around. We must show that we are unhappy, but we will do it with love. We must meet hate with love." He stopped for a moment. The crowd was silent. They listened to his every word. "Some people will say we are wrong." His voice grew louder. "But if we are wrong, then the whole country is wrong. If we are wrong, then God himself is wrong. We will walk with our heads held high and with love in our hearts, and we will keep walking until fairness runs down like water. The crowd cheered loudly. They had found their voice. They had found their leader. For 381 days, the black people of Montgomery walked. It was a long, hard year. They helped each other. People with cars drove all day to take others to work or to church. One day, a driver saw an old woman walking very slowly. He stopped and asked if she wanted a ride. The old woman smiled and shook her head. "I'm not walking for myself," she said. "I'm walking for my children and my grandchildren." She added, "My feet are tired, but my soul is rested." This brave feeling kept everyone going. Martin walked with them. His house was bombed. He was arrested, but every problem made them stronger. Finally, after more than a year, the highest court in the country said the unfair rules on the buses were wrong. They had fought with peace, and peace had won. The dreamer from Atlanta had shown his people that a dream of fairness could be more powerful than hate. And that win in Montgomery was like a spark. It started fires of hope all over the South. In one city, people marched so their children could go to better schools. In another town, they sat silently at restaurant tables that were only for white people. Every march was met with angry shouts. Every time they sat down, they were arrested. Through it all, Martin's voice was there. He told people to be peaceful and brave. Then he himself was arrested and put in a cold jail cell in a city called Birmingham. While he was in jail, some white church leaders wrote a letter in the newspaper. They said Martin was causing trouble and should wait. Martin felt sad and alone in his cell. He had no paper, but he had to answer them. He found old newspapers and small pieces of paper. He started to write. He wrote about the pain of waiting. He wrote that when people told them to wait for their rights, it felt the same as being told never. He said they could not wait for fairness. They had to ask for it now, peacefully and bravely. His letter from the Birmingham jail became a very important message in their fight for fairness. The marches in Birmingham were met with terrible attacks. The police used powerful water hoses to knock down children. They let police dogs bite the peaceful marchers. The whole country watched these ugly things on television. People were shocked. They saw how brave the marchers were and how much hate they were facing. After years of fighting in cities and towns, it was time for one big, brave action. But it was a huge risk. The government was nervous. Their enemies were watching. They hoped 100,000 people would come. But nobody knew if it would be a great success or a failure. This was their biggest test, a march on Washington. On a hot August day, more than 250,000 people came. They stood together in front of a giant statue of Abraham Lincoln. Lincoln was the president who had freed the slaves 100 years before. The big crowd was full of hopeful faces. There were black people and white people, young and old. Everyone was waiting for the last speech of the day. Martin was the last person to speak. The crowd was tired from the heat and the long day. He was nervous, but he felt the energy of the crowd. He started to read the speech he had written. It was a good speech, but something was missing. Near the front stood his good friend, who was a famous singer. As Martin spoke, she felt he needed to speak from his heart. She shouted, "Tell them about the dream, Martin. Tell them about the dream." Martin heard her. He pushed his written speech aside. He looked out at all the people and he began to speak from his heart. "I have a dream," he said. His voice was loud across the city. It woke up the tired crowd. Everyone grew quiet. "I have a dream that one day this country will live by its most important promise. That promise is that all people are created equal." His voice got stronger with every word like a powerful song. "I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a different kind of country. In that country, people will not be judged by the color of their skin. They will be judged by what they are like inside. I have a dream today. I have a dream. It is a beautiful dream. One day, little black boys and black girls will join hands with little white boys and white girls. They will be like sisters and brothers. I have a dream today." He shared his beautiful dream for a new America, a place where love and fairness would win. When he finished, the crowd cheered louder than ever before. People were crying and hugging each other. On that day, Martin's dream became America's dream. It gave hope to millions of people. It showed everyone the power of a peaceful dream for the future. The dream was beautiful, but the road to make it real was still full of pain. In a town called Selma, black people were still not allowed to vote. There were special rules to stop them. Martin and other leaders decided to march from Selma to the state capital, Montgomery. They wanted to demand the right to vote. On a Sunday morning, about 600 brave people started to walk. They were peaceful. They sang songs of freedom. They came to a bridge called the Edmund Pettus Bridge. On the other side of the bridge, many policemen were waiting. They were holding big sticks. The marchers were told to turn back. They stood still and prayed quietly. Then the police attacked. They ran into the crowd. They hit men, women, and even children with their sticks. It was a terrible, sad day. It became known as Bloody Sunday, and news cameras recorded everything. That night, families all across America watched the news. They saw the pictures of the peaceful marchers being beaten. They saw the hate. They could not believe their eyes. Seeing these terrible pictures shocked the whole country. It made many silent people finally speak up. Martin was not on that first march. When he heard what happened, his heart broke. He knew they could not give up. He asked people from all over the country, of all races and religions, to come to Selma and join them. And people came. They came by bus, by plane, and by car. They came to stand with the brave people of Selma. A few days later, they marched again. This time, there were thousands of them, and this time, the President of the United States sent soldiers to protect them. They walked for 5 days. They slept in fields at night. Finally, they reached the city of Montgomery. It was a great win. Because they were so brave, a new law was passed. It was called the Voting Rights Act. It protected the right of every person, black or white, to vote. They had crossed the bridge of hate and walked into a new day of hope. They had won the right to vote. They had won the right to sit at the front of the bus. But Martin knew it was not enough. He went to the big cities in the north. He saw a different kind of unfairness. He saw children playing on cold streets with no shoes. He met families who worked hard every day but still went to bed hungry. At that moment, he knew a new truth in his heart. The right to sit on a bus means nothing if you are too poor to pay for a ticket. His dream had to be bigger. It had to be a dream that could also feed a hungry child. He began to plan a poor people's campaign. He wanted to demand good jobs and homes for everyone. He also spoke out against a war in a country called Vietnam. He believed the war was taking money and attention away from the poor people at home. He said a country that spends more money on war than on helping its own people has lost its way. Not many people liked what he said. It made some people angry, but Martin believed he had to speak the truth for all who were suffering. In the spring of 1968, he went to a city called Memphis. The garbage collectors there were mostly black. They were on strike for better pay. Martin went to give them his support. On a stormy night, he gave a speech in a small church. Outside, the wind made a loud sound and rain hit the windows. Inside, he seemed tired, but his voice was full of a strange power. He talked about the long journey they had been on. Then he said something that no one would ever forget. "I don't know what will happen now," he said. "We have some difficult days ahead. But it doesn't matter to me now, because I have been to the mountaintop." His voice grew quiet, almost a whisper, "And I have looked over, and I have seen the promised land. I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we, as a people, will get to the promised land." It felt like he knew his journey was coming to an end. The next day, April 4th, 1968, Martin was standing on the balcony of his motel. He was talking with his friends. It was a peaceful evening. He was getting ready for dinner. Suddenly, a loud shot was heard. Martin fell. A bullet from a hidden gun had hit him. His friends ran to help him, but it was too late. He was only 39 years old. The dreamer's life was over. The man was gone. The news of his death shook the world. Many people cried with sadness and anger, but many others remembered his words of peace. They knew that meeting hate with more hate was not the answer. Martin taught us that one person can change the world. He taught us that love is stronger than hate. He taught us that peace takes more bravery than fighting. And he gave us a dream. It is a dream of a world where everyone is treated with respect. A world where we are all judged by the goodness in our hearts. His life was short, but his message will always be important. Unfairness is still in the world, but his dream lives on. It lives on in everyone who is brave. They are the ones who stand up for what is right.
太棒了，你把故事听完了，你离英语自由又近了一步。欢迎加入频道会员，支持频道发展。会员可获得影片的中英文对照学习资料、跟读练习视频、影片、MP3 文件等福利。这里是像学母语一样学英语频道，我们下个视频见。